Good afternoon. Thank you for coming here today. My name is Mike Spence, and I'm the Mayor Pro Tem of the City of West Covina. And we're all here because we're opposed to SB 54, the Sanctuary State Bill. And we're opposed to it because it usurps local control and limits the ability of local law enforcement to get rid of violent criminals, rapists, child molesters. That's why we're here today, because we're united that our public safety is in danger by what's going on in Sacramento. And so first I'd like to introduce to you the mayor of Walnut, Eric Ching.
Hi, I'm Eric Ching. I'm a mayor of the city of Walnut. I'm against this bill. I want to share a quick story with you. Last year, we had a resident, a jogger, last February. He was running down our street, and one immigrant decided to kill somebody so that he can stay in the United States. And this bill will protect this criminal for being deported. That's why I'm here, to speak against the bill. I think we all agree that we don't want criminals here to have ability to stay here. I think that's our consensus. So with that, I want to also turn over to Senator Anderson, or is it?
Well,
the mic.
Yeah.
thank you.
I'd like to mention that the mayor of San Marino's here, Stephen Wong. He's here as well in support. And at this time, though, we're going to hear from the Chief of Police of the City of West Covina, Dave Faulkner.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming today. I just wanted to say a few words about SB 54 and the impact it will have on the City of West Covina and also the surrounding communities. As a police department, we work very closely with and have great relationships with our community. And the thing we're most concerned about is maintaining that relationship and doing so in such a way that there's a level of trust. And to do so, we work behind the scenes with our federal partners on a consistent basis. Our biggest fear is that if this bill passes, that our federal agencies will be fanning out into our local communities, creating that question of relationship with our local agencies. We want people to feel comfortable reporting crimes. We certainly want them to feel comfortable calling us when they need assistance. And that won't necessarily happen if there are fear of our officers being in that particular situation. We are not here to enforce immigration laws. That's not what we do as a local police department. This is also the stance of the California Police Chiefs Association and the Los Angeles County Police Chiefs Association. And with that, I'd like to hand it back to Mayor Pro Tem.
There's been one voice in Sacramento that has been leading the charge against the Sanctuary State Bill, and that's State Senator Joel Anderson.
Thank you. Mike, I want to thank you for hosting us here at City Hall. SB 54 shields felons. We have 11,661 felons serving in our prison system. That does not include all the felons that are serving in our local county and city jails. This bill will shield rapists and child molesters so that they would return to our communities to prey on us again. And it forces ICE to go door to door looking for those felons and picking up dreamers along the way. There is no greater threat to dreamers than SB 54 because it shields felons forcing ICE into neighborhoods. With that, I'd like to open up to any questions that you may have about the bill or about how it would work. Yes, sir.
What are the concerns that if you can't have any communication with federal authorities, that it could jeopardize,
Funding?
federal investigation?
Well, let me turn it over to the police chief because the investigations is his knowledge.
That's a very good question. Thank you very much for asking that. We work, as you said, very closely with our federal partners on local and federal investigations, and that would directly compromise our ability to handle not just straight investigations locally, but our narcotics investigations that go more regionally. So it's very important we maintain those relationships.
Chief, how specifically would this legislation allow for the harboring of rapists and murderers, serious felons?
Well, many of the handoffs occur behind the scenes in our jail system. We work closely with the Los Angeles County Sheriffs here in West Covina. We hand off our prisoners to them specifically that have those federal warrants, and this would not allow us to be able to handle that in the same manner. That's the fear that the senator spoke of specifically, that now ICE would be fanning out into our communities looking for the same people that we can no longer work with them directly on.
What specifically in the bill is different than the system that the sheriff is using now, where he doesn't actively go out and enforce immigration law, but he allows immigration authorities to take custody of people when they are released. What's the difference?
I
in
can
this?
feel that.
Go ahead.
I can tell you that right now, in many of the jails, ICE rents space and has access to the computer system, so they do all the immigration work inside the jail. The sheriff does nothing. All he does is allow them to have access to that information. SB 54 would prohibit that communication. So in our in our state prisons, we have 11,661 undocumented felons serving right now. They would not be allowed to communicate with ICE to ensure that they are deported after they finish serving their sentence. Now, one of the aspects that people have been concerned about is Jeff Sessions speaking out about the loss of federal money to help. This year alone, the state is receiving $50.6 million in federal grants to offset the housing costs of those felons. If SB 54 passes, we would no longer qualify for those grants and we could not apply for them, so we would lose that $50.6 million. In the case of Orange County, they said it would be $22 million to Orange County sheriffs. When you make a $22 million cut, you can't cut enough police cars, you can't cut enough and save enough in your energy bills. It's officers on the street. Ultimately, we're going to lose officers on the street because we failed to qualify for those federal grants. We identified an easy 117, and we have a poster up here, right here, that identifies $117 million. It's low-lying fruit. But we know that Jeff Sessions said, Secretary Sessions said, it was $4.1 billion nationally, and the lion's share of that money comes to California. So the number could be as high as $1 billion. The problem occurs because we have task force, gang task force, drug task forces. We get federal money for that because of the illegal immigration aspect of it. Over here, we have this fellow, Randall Allison, is serving right now in Kings County Jail. And he's a felon. They have 400 people in their jail. 19 of them are identified as undocumented felons, and he's from Canada. But he's a drug runner, and those are all the drugs that he had in it. That's all cocaine. So the sheriff there, Sheriff Robinson, is scared to death that he won't be able to communicate to ICE and turn this man over when he's finished in his jail. This is a huge risk to us. The other aspect is if we're shielding these felons, rapists and child molesters primarily, and they return to our community, ICE has no place else to go but into the community, into those undocumented communities to chase these felons down. And we saw in Los Angeles back in January, they had 150 warrants. They came in with 150 warrants, they couldn't find all the felons, and they picked up 19 additional people. Because when they went to their doors and the felon wasn't home, they asked for everybody's papers. And when they couldn't produce those papers, they were deported. That's why this is the greatest threat to Dreamers. SB 54 will be responsible for more Dreamers being deported. I think there's a huge distinction that SB 54 does not see. If someone comes to our country looking for a better life, there are tremendous arguments of why they should stay. There is no good argument why a felon, why a murderer, rapist, or child molester should be shielded only to jeopardize everybody else here in California. So this is a huge issue, both on a financial level and on a criminal level. Is there another question? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, could any of you explain why we're here in West Covina and how this bill affects the local community?
Well, we're here in West Covina for several reasons. One is it does affect our local community. As the senator's outlined, it does protect felons that otherwise would be released into West Covina. We're also here because of the case that the mayor of Walnut talked about. That was a West Covina resident who is here illegally, who killed someone in the city of Walnut. That's why we're here today. And of course, the city of West Covina, as along with other cities like Luna-Niguel and others, have taken up this issue, and we voted to oppose it as a city council 4-1. That this is bad public policy. It usurps local control, and it protects felons. And the state of California does not know what's best for West Covina. Our police and our city council does.
Okay, may I just add something? Not just only City of Walnut and West Covina. City of Diamond Bar Mayor Jimmy Lin also is opposed this law. So also Mayor of El Cajon, number of cities. So we're starting a movement. It's called Mayor for Safe Cities. We're going to start that from all the way down to San Diego to North Cal. So you're going to see this movement. I want to thank you for covering this. So the more people know about it, the more mayors will join this force to fight against this bill. Thank you. And
hello, my name is Stephen Huang. I'm a city council member from San Marino. I'm just doing this because this is for good cause, and I just want to have safe neighborhood everywhere in California. Thank you.
And we also have the Mayor Pro Tem from the city of Arcadia, Peter Amundsen, here as well in support. Are there any other questions?
One more question I have good for the chief. Your counterpart in Los Angeles, Chief Charlie Beck, has said many times that in order for him to be able to keep his community safe, it's vitally important to have a very strong relationship with the immigrant community of Los Angeles. And it's his position that immigration enforcement and law enforcement has to be a clear line of demarcation and no way to, and it should never be crossed, or he can't keep his community safe. Now, I'm not sure that the chief has actually weighed in yet on this position on SB 54, but just last week he was at a news conference with the mayor, as you may know,
I do.
when they signed the sanctuary city ordinance, which does spell out that law enforcement needs to have a clear line of demarcation. What is your response to that?
There is a clear line between what we do and what immigration does. The role of our law enforcement officers in the field are to serve the communities, respond to calls for service, and work with our victims to make sure that they report crimes that sometimes they're otherwise not interested in doing. We don't want fear, we want working relationships. That's very important to us. Our concern is more in the jail side, which is what Sheriff McDonald specifically spoke about in his concern. He wants to make sure these things happen behind the scenes instead of in our communities where they're much more visible and create more fear. Criminal aliens are the ones that we're ultimately deporting, and that's what ICE is working with us to do so. My fear is we don't want to be in conflict with state law or federal law, and this particular Senate bill puts us in violation of one or the other, and we don't want to see our officers being put in that position.
And to that point, then maybe this is a case of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, where behind prison cells, you want to make sure you have that access and that you have a good working relationship with ICE. But on the other side of the equation, on that question, Chief Beck is saying that he needs that relationship out in the general public. So is there a way to augment SB 54 so it doesn't affect the behind jail cell sort of aspect of what you're talking about?
Well, as far as we're concerned, it's the working relationship issue that we're most concerned about. It's being able to work with ICE and not have that relationship cut off. And I would also like to pass that on to anyone else in the panel.
I will tell you, in 2013, we passed the Trust Act in the legislature. It prohibits local law enforcement from communicating about a dreamer based on the fact that they're a dreamer. So if you are caught jaywalking and you're cited for that, you're not passed on to ICE. What SB 54 does, it goes way beyond dreamers or everyday folks that are picked up. It focuses in on shielding felons. That's the departure from where we were before. What we're saying is the system's not broke. Let's not try to fix it. Let's not put everybody at risk. And one of the items that most people are not covering is if you shield those felons and they return to the communities, there is no state law that can be written that stops the federal government from executing on federal law. So they're going to come into those communities, and you're going to see people waiting for felons to show up with their kids at school. All the things that you don't want to happen are going to happen because we didn't allow ICE access to those rapists and child molesters while they were in jail. We forced them into the communities to chase these folks, and along the way, they're going to pick up everybody that they can find. And so I think if you're concerned about dreamers, you should oppose SB 54. So that's one of the big differences. The Trust Act already protects people who are not violent, not hardened criminals, not felons. They're already protected to the extent that California can protect somebody from federal law. Another question?
SB 54 needs a 2/3 majority, right?
That's correct.
How many, with the Democratic supermajority, how many Democrats do you think you need to vote no? Can you do that?
Well, so right now, the bill's been eligible for over 2 weeks to be voted on the Senate floor, but it hasn't, which signifies there's not enough Democrat votes. So all we need is one not to vote for it, but I think that number's closer to 13. I think there are 13 Democrats who believe that this is the wrong direction, that they support the Trust Act, but they think this goes too far when you shield felons, rapists, and child molesters.
So it hasn't been brought up to a vote yet?
in the full Senate. It was in the Public Safety Committee, and it was in Appropriations. But that's not the full Senate. Another question?
If I could, I know the authors of this bill would argue that the population in the county jail is public knowledge. It's available online. You can see exactly who is in the jail at any given time, and that there's nothing, they would argue, in this bill that would prevent federal immigration authorities doing their job from locating, identifying the rapists and the felons you're talking about, and making sure that they're able to take custody of them in the court. Nothing in the bill whatsoever.
Then why is all law enforcement upset with it? Why is the chief speaking on it? Why has there been such a problem with it? I will tell you this, that if you put my name in the system, in our state prison system, you might get 17 or 20 pages with my name. So you have to have the ability to communicate with those folks to ensure that you're not taking somebody who's a U.S. citizen and trying to deport them. You have to confirm that you have the correct person before you move forward. Not having access to those folks, right now under SB 54, if you call and you say, my brother's in prison and I want to know when he's getting out and I want to know what prison he's in, they'll tell you. If ICE calls and asks the same question, they're saying, I'm sorry, SB 54 prohibits us from communicating with you. That makes no sense. Why would we shield rapists and child molesters only to come back to our communities and force ICE to look for them there? It's my position. We should put bows on their tie and bows on their heads and package them to go.
Chief, would you agree with that?
Absolutely, I would. Our role is to make communities safer, and communication and regional working relationships are extremely important. If you look at the state of California, and I use West Covina as an example, we're the lowest officer rate per ratio around in many, many years. As a direct result, we need those relationships, and working with ICE is one of those. And it's not because we're in the field with them, but it occurs behind the scenes, which is where it's important in those investigations that ultimately uncover who's responsible for those crimes that the senator was specifically talking about.
To the argument that the authors of the bill would say that ICE has access to every person and knows the identity of everybody in the jail, and therefore this legislation does not harbor molesters and
Well, I think that's a question you probably have to pose to the sheriff. I don't work in that jail to be able to tell you that. I think the senator hit on it pretty well. This prohibits communication, and that's the issue. It's our job to make communities safer, and we're concerned that this will not do that. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a phone.
Oh, well, are there any questions? Well, on behalf of the City of West Covina and Senator Anderson and the mayors of Walnut, San Marino, and the Mayor Pro Tem from Arcadia, I want to thank you for coming. Remember, SB 54, Sanctuary State, it usurps local control, limits local law enforcement, and leaves felons in our communities, and it has to be stopped. Thank you very much.